Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand today that you were not born empty. You were not created by accident, and you are certainly not a mistake. You came into this world already equipped, packed full of purpose, potential, and power. But the problem is, many of us are walking around unaware of what's inside of us. We've allowed the opinions of others, the limitations of society, and the weight of our past to cloud our vision and shut down our faith. But I came to tell you today, God is activating your unstoppable power. You see, power is not something you beg for, it's not something you chase. Power is something you already possess, but it needs to be awakened. And when God begins to activate what He put in you before you were even born, nothing on this earth, nothing in hell, and no one with an opinion can stop it. That power is purpose-driven, heaven authorized, and hell proof. It doesn't bow to fear. It doesn't retreat under pressure. It doesn't die in the valley. It rises in the storm. You are not waiting on God. God is waiting on you. Waiting on you to believe again, to speak again, to move again. He's waiting for you to stop looking at what you don't have and start tapping into what's already inside. This is not the season to shrink back. This is not the time to doubt. This is the moment where God says, I am activating the gift. I am stirring the vision. I am reigniting the fire, because the world doesn't need another copy. It needs your original design. The world is not waiting on another superstar. It's groaning for sons and daughters who know who they are and whose they are. You were born with purpose, power, and potential already within you. Before you were even formed in your mother's womb, you were known by God. You were not an afterthought. You were not simply the result of biology. You were an idea in the mind of God, carefully crafted, intentionally designed, and strategically placed on this earth for a specific assignment. You are not here to exist. You are here to make a difference. You are not here to merely survive. You are here to bring transformation. You are not here to imitate, you are here to originate. Everything you need to fulfill your assignment has already been placed inside you. You don't have to look outside for validation, affirmation, or permission. The seed of greatness was deposited in you before your first breath. That means you are walking around with untapped power, buried potential, and dormant purpose that's waiting to be discovered, activated, and unleashed. The tragedy is not that people die. The tragedy is that many die full of dreams that were never pursued, full of gifts that were never unwrapped, full of power that was never activated. Your potential is like a treasure chest locked within your spirit. It's not something you develop externally. It's something you uncover internally. Your talents, your voice, your ideas, your leadership, your compassion, your creativity, your ability to endure, to innovate, to lead. These are all traces of what's been buried within you. And yet, the world often teaches you to conform, to doubt yourself, to wait for someone else to approve what God already confirmed. This is why you can feel restless, even when life looks successful on the outside. This is why you can be surrounded by people and still feel unseen. Because something deep inside of you knows there's more. Something in your spirit keeps whispering that you were made for something greater. And that whisper is not your imagination. It's the echo of heaven reminding you of your divine DNA. It's the sound of your purpose calling you higher. Too many people settle because they don't realize what they carry. They think they're ordinary, but they're walking around with extraordinary destiny. They think they're powerless, but they've been equipped with everything heaven could give. They think they're forgotten, but their name has been written in the eternal plans of God. You were not made to follow trends. You were made to set them. You were not made to fit in. You were made to stand out. You were not made to simply observe the world. You were made to change it. And you don't have to wait until everything is perfect to start walking in your purpose. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be the most talented, the most educated, or the most connected. What you do need is the courage to believe that what God placed in you is real, is valuable, and is needed. You need the boldness to stop comparing yourself and start uncovering yourself. You need the discipline to stop delaying your destiny and start developing your potential. When you understand that you were born already equipped, you stop looking at your flaws as final. You stop viewing your setbacks as disqualifications. Instead, you begin to see that everything you've been through has been shaping you, molding you, and positioning you for the release of your purpose. Every disappointment, every delay, every rejection, it's all been part of the process of preparing what was already planted within you. You don't gain purpose by experience, you activate purpose through revelation. And once you get a revelation of what's inside of you, you begin to live, move, and speak differently. You stop playing small. You stop apologizing for your fire. You stop hiding your light. Because now you know you've been carrying greatness all along. God is not preparing you. He's activating what's already inside. There is a difference between preparation and activation. Preparation suggests something that is being built, something that still needs assembling. Activation, however, implies that what is needed is already present. It simply needs to be switched on. Many people are waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, the perfect sign, thinking that they are still in a season of preparation when in fact, heaven has already declared that this is a season of activation. What you've been praying for, waiting for, and hoping for is already inside of you, and God is now saying it's time to release it. There are moments in life when heaven interrupts your waiting room. You've been waiting, thinking you're not ready, believing that you need more time, more affirmation, more qualifications. But while you've been looking outward, God has been working inward. He's not trying to add something new. He's trying to stir up what he already deposited, that gift, that calling, that anointing. It didn't just show up yesterday. It's been with you from the beginning. What's changing now is your awareness of it, your sensitivity to it, your willingness to say yes to it. Activation doesn't wait for convenience. It often shows up in the middle of your discomfort. It shows up when you feel least qualified, most uncertain, and deeply unprepared. Because activation is not based on feelings. It's based on divine timing. When God activates you, he doesn't need you to feel ready. He just needs you to recognize that you are. He's not asking for perfection. He's asking for obedience. He's not waiting on your resume. He's waiting on your surrender. You've been equipped, empowered, and chosen. But for too long, you've been treating your calling like a future event instead of a present assignment. You've been putting off what you were born to do. You've been sitting on what you were meant to release. And God is saying, now is the moment to turn the key. Now is the time to step into the identity you've been avoiding. Now is the hour to let go of the fear, the doubt, and the excuses that have kept you on pause. The world is not waiting for a perfect version of you. It's waiting for the real you, the one who knows that they carry something divine, something disruptive, something world-changing. You don't need another confirmation. You don't need another prophecy. You don't need another opportunity to be reminded of what God already said. What you need is the courage to move like it's true, to act like it's already done, to walk like the door is already open. Because activation begins when action replaces hesitation. When you stop questioning your worth and start walking in your assignment, you become unstoppable. Heaven backs movement, not just intention. And when you move in faith, heaven releases resources, relationships, and revelations that align with your obedience. The enemy's goal is not to destroy your gift. He can't. His goal is to keep it buried under fear, under shame, under procrastination. But when God activates you, the lid comes off. The voice gets louder. The vision gets clearer. The weight of waiting is lifted, and the urgency to walk in destiny becomes undeniable. You start seeing differently. You start speaking differently. You start praying, planning, and pushing like something has shifted. Activation is spiritual permission to move forward with boldness, confidence, and divine authority. It's not the beginning of your story. It's the unveiling of what's been hidden in plain sight. What God placed in you is not on layaway. It's not on standby. It's live and it's ready to flow through you, disrupt atmospheres, break chains, and impact lives. Unstoppable power is purpose-driven, heaven-authorized, and hell-proof. This kind of power does not originate from human ambition or personal achievement. It flows from divine intention. It is not rooted in ego or performance, but in purpose. The reason why you were sent to the earth. When your life is aligned with your original assignment, when your steps are ordered not by trends but by truth, you begin to tap into a force that cannot be contained, delayed, or denied. That force is unstoppable, not because of who you are in the natural, but because of who sent you and what you carry in the spirit. Purpose-driven power is not loud, flashy, or self-seeking. It is steady, relentless, and anchored. It doesn't chase approval because it was birthed in authority. It doesn't waver in crisis because it was forged in divine intention. You don't have to manufacture it, fake it, or defend it. When your life is submitted to purpose, your power becomes precise. It knows where to go. It knows what to say. It knows what to confront and what to walk away from. You stop wasting energy trying to be everything to everyone and start focusing on the assignment that heaven placed in your hands. This power is not of this world, so it cannot be destroyed by the systems of this world. It is heaven authorized. That means it comes with clearance, backing, and authority from the throne of God. What God authorizes, no man can cancel. What God declares, no demon can reverse. Heaven does not ask for permission when it decides to move through someone. It does not consult your critics or your past. When heaven says yes, the earth must align. That's why hell fights you, not because of who you are right now, but because of the authorization you carry. Hell fears anyone who begins to realize that they have been sent, not just born. Hell panics when you move in revelation, when you start walking like someone who's already approved, already chosen, already anointed. There is a level of confidence that only comes from knowing that your mission is not man-made. You are not here by coincidence. You are not here to compete. You are not here to impress. You are here to fulfill a heavenly mandate. That's what makes you dangerous to darkness. Not your talent, not your title, but your alignment. When you are aligned with your Creator and your will is in sync with heaven's agenda, you become a vessel of unstoppable power. That power flows through your voice, through your presence, through your obedience. Hell-proof power doesn't mean you won't face attacks. It means the attacks won't prevail. It means that no weapon formed against you will prosper. Not because you're strong in yourself, but because the one who sent you already overcame. This power is not intimidated by opposition. It doesn't shrink in adversity. In fact, it multiplies under pressure. It grows in trials. It gets sharper in storms. The more you try to bury it, the more it rises. The more you try to contain it, the more it expands. Because it is sourced in eternity, and time cannot limit what was birthed in the eternal realm. This power is resilient because it is pure. It does not depend on applause. And it doesn't die in silence. It's not seasonal. It's not conditional. It's rooted in something greater than emotion or environment. That's why you can't explain it with logic. That's why others can't figure out how you keep standing, how you keep rising, how you keep speaking with authority when everything around you says you should be quiet. It's because there's a fire inside of you that wasn't lit by man, so it can't be put out by man. It's a divine ignition, a supernatural spark, and once it's activated, it keeps burning, regardless of circumstance. Your current limitations don't define your divine capacity. What you see in the mirror, what you've experienced in your past, what you lack in your hands, none of that can fully measure or determine the weight of what God placed inside of you. Too often we confuse our condition with our calling. We assume that because we're limited in resources, in support, in experience, or in confidence, we must also be limited in impact. But divine capacity is not measured by earthly standards. It's not determined by your surroundings. It's determined by the one who created you. God doesn't look at your life through the lens of your current reality. He sees the full picture, the end from the beginning. He's not limited by what you're lacking. He's empowered by what He's already placed inside of you. The treasure in you is greater than the trials around you. The seed of greatness in you is not intimidated by your shortcomings. It was planted with the expectation that you would overcome every limitation, not in your own strength, but by the grace that backs your divine assignment. Your limitations are real, but they are not final. Just because you feel unqualified doesn't mean you're disqualified. Just because the doors haven't opened yet doesn't mean the room isn't being prepared. Sometimes the greatest power is developed in the hidden places where your capacity is stretched beyond what you thought was possible. And that stretching often feels like limitation when in reality it's preparation for elevation. You think you're stuck, but God is building muscle. You think you're behind, but God is establishing depth. He's allowing pressure to push you beyond what you thought you could handle so that you can discover what's actually in you. Divine capacity is not revealed in comfort. It's revealed in the moments where you're forced to depend on something greater than what's visible. When the bank account is empty, when the people walk away, when the plans fall apart, that's when the divine in you starts to rise. Because capacity isn't proven by having much. It's proven by doing much with little. God doesn't give vision according to your limitations. He gives vision according to your destiny. And when your vision feels too big for your current ability, that's not a sign to shrink back. It's a sign to grow into the version of yourself that can handle what's coming. You are not too broken. You are not too late. You are not too far gone. God doesn't need you to have it all together to use you powerfully. He just needs you to recognize that your limitations are not barriers. They are invitations to tap into grace, to depend on Him, to stop trying to measure your worth by temporary metrics. You don't serve a limited God, so stop living a limited life. Your environment may be small, but your spirit is vast. Your resources may be few, but your potential is limitless. Heaven doesn't wait for you to be perfect. It waits for you to be available, willing, and ready to believe again. Every person God ever used in history had limitations. Moses had a speech issue. David was the youngest and overlooked. Esther was an orphan. Paul had a thorn. Yet their limitations didn't cancel their calling. In fact, their weaknesses became the very space where God's strength was made visible. So whatever you think is holding you back, your background, your education, your mistakes, your insecurities, those are not disqualifiers. They are reminders that when you finally step into what God called you to do, no one will be able to say it was by your strength alone. God is not asking you to be limitless. He's asking you to trust that His capacity through you is greater than the limits around you. That's where faith becomes fuel, where trust becomes a tool, and where the impossible starts to feel like destiny. Activation requires belief, boldness, and movement. Nothing in the kingdom of God is passive. Nothing in your purpose is automatic. What's been placed inside of you is powerful, but it does not operate on autopilot. Heaven has already released the assignment, the authority, and the anointing, but it takes faith to bring it into manifestation. Belief is not just a mental agreement. It is a spiritual force that unlocks what's been hidden within you. Until you believe that you are who God says you are, you'll always live beneath your potential, functioning with a version of yourself that was shaped by fear, doubt, and the opinions of others. Belief changes your language. It shifts how you speak about yourself, your future, your abilities. It silences the inner critic and amplifies the voice of the Spirit. When you truly believe, you stop asking for permission to be great. You stop waiting for people to validate what heaven has already confirmed. Belief doesn't just give you hope, it gives you clarity. You begin to see opportunities in places where others see obstacles. You begin to recognize divine timing in moments that others overlook. And that belief, when anchored in truth, becomes a foundation for boldness. Boldness is the outward expression of inner belief. It's when your faith becomes visible. It's not arrogance, and it's not recklessness. Boldness is what happens when you know you've been sent. It's the fire that pushes you past the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, and the fear of being misunderstood. Boldness allows you to speak when silence feels safer. It empowers you to take steps when comfort tells you to stay still. People often wait to feel confident before they move, but boldness is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move in spite of it. Boldness says, I may not know how this will turn out, but I know who sent me. And when you walk in that kind of confidence, heaven backs every step. But belief and boldness alone are not enough. There must be movement. God does not respond to intentions, He responds to action. Destiny is not discovered in contemplation, it is revealed in obedience. Movement is what separates the dreamers from the doers. You can pray all day, speak affirmations, declare promises, but if you do not move, nothing changes. Movement activates momentum, it creates space for miracles. It signals to heaven that you're serious about what you've been carrying. Even if it's a small step, even if it's uncomfortable, movement breaks the grip of stagnation. Many people are spiritually full but practically empty. They carry vision but never execute. They have revelation but never respond. They sit on ideas, gifts, and strategies waiting for a sign when the truth is the sign is already inside of them. Sometimes God is waiting on you to move not because He needs you to perform, but because movement is how you show faith. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to start. When you begin to walk toward what you believe, when you move with boldness in alignment with God's voice, you begin to unlock provision, strategy, and divine connections that were never visible until you step forward. The enemy doesn't mind if you believe as long as you don't move. He doesn't mind if you're bold in your private thoughts as long as you never take action. But the moment you begin to move with intention, all of hell takes notice. Because movement is a threat to mediocrity. Movement is a declaration of war against fear, apathy, and delay. Every step you take in faith is a step further from limitation and a step closer to manifestation. This is why belief must turn into boldness. And boldness must become movement. Not someday. Not when everything is clear, but now. Because activation does not wait for ideal conditions. It waits for your yes. When God activates your power, nothing and no one can shut it down. Divine activation is not subject to human approval or natural limitations. It is a sovereign decision made in the courts of heaven and carried out in the earth through chosen vessels. When God speaks a word over your life, it is sealed with eternal authority. That word does not expire, it does not return void, and it cannot be revoked by people who don't understand your process. Once God decides to awaken what He planted in you, every attempt to hinder, block, or silence it becomes futile. This power doesn't ask for permission to operate. It doesn't consult your past before it manifests. It doesn't shrink back in the face of resistance. What God activates is established. His word becomes law over your life. It overrides fear, failure, rejection, and every lie the enemy tried to plant in your identity. This is not a temporary spark. It is not an emotional high. It is a divine ignition that marks the beginning of something unstoppable. People may not see it at first. They may not believe it. They may try to explain it away. But the power of God is not dependent on perception. It is proven by fruit. When God activates your power, doors begin to open that you didn't knock on. Opportunities find you. Favor starts to chase you down. Not because you manipulated your way in, but because heaven made room for you. And even if others try to close those doors, they don't have the keys. The keys belong to the one who called you. People may try to lock you out, but they didn't build the room. They may try to label you based on who you were, but God calls you based on who you are becoming. Your assignment cannot be canceled by their opinions, and your progress cannot be stopped by their resistance. This power does not come to impress, it comes to impact. It doesn't just make you look different, it makes you move different. It shifts the way you carry yourself. It awakens a new level of clarity, confidence, and conviction. You no longer walk like someone who's guessing, you walk like someone who's been sent. You don't wait to be chosen. You operate as one who was already chosen. Your voice begins to carry weight. Your presence begins to shift atmospheres, and not because of who you are in the natural, but because of the power flowing through you. This kind of activation causes disruption. It shakes systems. It exposes pretenders. It unsettles mediocrity. Because when real power shows up, everything that's fake has to back down. You're no longer satisfied with blending in. You're no longer okay with silence. You can't unsee what God showed you. You can't unknow what He spoke to your spirit. And once you've been activated, you're held accountable to that revelation. You can't go back to playing small. You can't go back to hiding. You can't pretend you're not ready when God already said you are. No amount of opposition can override divine intention. No lie can cancel what's been confirmed in heaven. No delay can diminish what's been ordained. When God activates your power, the timing may not make sense, the setting may not look ideal, but the move is real. You begin to operate on a level that doesn't make sense to the natural mind. You're not striving, you're flowing. You're not begging, you're commanding. You're not proving, you're becoming. You realize that the power wasn't something you had to chase, it was something you had to surrender to. This is why the enemy works so hard to distract you before activation. Because once you step into it, you become a threat to everything that was trying to keep you bound. Once that switch is flipped, once your eyes open, once your spirit agrees with what heaven already declared, you become dangerous to darkness. Your words carry weight. Your hands release healing. Your steps reclaim territory. And no force in hell can stop what heaven has released. You were never created to live a life of limitation, fear, or hesitation. You were sent to the earth with divine purpose, equipped with unstoppable power, and chosen by God to disrupt darkness and release light. This is not the season to shrink back. This is the moment where heaven is activating what's already within you, calling you out of waiting and into walking, out of questioning and into conquering. The same God who authored your destiny is now igniting your spirit, unlocking your gifts, and commanding you to move with boldness, clarity, and authority. No more delays, no more excuses, no more living beneath your calling. What God has placed in you cannot be silenced, stopped, or reversed. Now is the time. Rise in power. Walk in purpose. Move like the one who's already been sent. You are the evidence that God still breathes through people. You are the proof that heaven still activates warriors. You are not just called, you are released.